Welcome back to the channel. It's been a long summer for a lot of people, but football is back. Of course, the Community Shield took place today. Don't know how disappointed Liverpool fans are, but of course, Crystal Palace have won that on penalties. Interesting stat that only I think one of the last 15 Community Shield winners from Dundee won the Premier League, so might be an omen for Liverpool fans. We'll get the thoughts of Owen to see how bored he is about it. We'll also look ahead, of course, the PSG against Spurs in the Super Cup on Wednesday night. The European curtain raiser. Of course, we had the Premier League curtain raiser today. We'll look at all the transfer business, the significant transfer business at all the top clubs, including what's been a huge summer for Liverpool. Their fans seem very, very happy, but are they done yet? Do they need more? Of course, Man City rebuilt their midfield early on ahead of the Club World Cup. Chelsea were also busy and are currently busy, and of course, selling a lot of players as well. We get Owen's thoughts on that because it always is a good word to say about Chelsea. Spurs, it looked like at one point we're going to have a big summer, but it's stalled all since that Morgan Gibbs White deal fell through. We're going to ask and talk about what's going on at Spurs. A lot of unhappy Spurs fans ahead of the Super Cup on Wednesday night. They feel they're underprepared for that. We'll also look at Newcastle here having a very difficult summer. Alexander Isak is dominant in that market at the moment. Newcastle fans are really unhappy with his behaviour. So we'll talk about that. We'll look at Man United. Of course, they always seem to spend big when they're in trouble, but I think for a lot of football fans, not just Man United fans, a lot of people believe they've signed 3 significant players in that attacking area. Are they going to be much more of a threat this year? And of course, no European football they worry about. They can focus on the Premier League. So Owen, so much to get through. And of course, we've our predictions to do at the end. We'll do all the big competitions, including next year's World Cup as well. Obviously, that is less than a year away now, would you believe it or not? So great for a lot of people. I see a lot of people are on there. So do stick your comments in and we will try and answer your questions as much as possible between now and the next hour or so. I'm off to Italy in the morning, so for the Super Cup. And we'll speak about Spurs in a bit. But look, let's start by talking about today's Community Shield because it is fresh in. I don't know, before I was sitting down to watch the game and I really fancied Liverpool. They won quite convincingly. Now, maybe that was just down to the fact they spent a lot of money and they signed players that a lot of clubs would have liked, but also the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty there in Crystal Palace. Glasner's saying he needs players. Of course, there's the whole European appeal that's hanging over their head. They're going to find out tomorrow, I believe, if their appeal's been successful. They don't know what competition they're in, of course, and that means they don't know what kind of money they can spend. So Liverpool go into this as massive favourites, and they started like a house on fire, and you're kind of thinking this could be a long afternoon for Palace, but it didn't really materialise like that. And of course, Palace, in the end, deserved at least to get the penalties and won the shootout. So what was your thoughts on today's game?
Just as you said, after the first half, we started really well. We got the goal within 4 minutes from Ekatike, and I thought we would kick on from then. And we had our chances to extend the lead. So, but it was very, very disappointed with our second half performance. Don't get me wrong, I've seen some of the reaction today, and it's been overblown as usual. I'm not going to lose any sleep over the fact that we've lost the Community Shield. It's like, if we win it, great. If we lose it, I'm not bothered. So, but fair play to Palace. It's a bigger game for them than it is for Liverpool. No disrespect to Palace, but you can see it meant more to them than it would have done to us. But as long as we're going on Friday night and get the 3 points at home to Bournemouth, I'll not be too worried about today's result. But it's more the depth that we'll speak about it. But we'll speak about it. But I do think we need maybe 1 or 2 more bodies in.
I mean, on a separate note, there's a lot of criticism at the women's UEFA.
Penalties.
The penalties. I mean, 5 out of 10 penalties scored in that shootout. Is that just down to pre-season? Or do you think we had 2 good goalkeepers on there that made a difference? I mean, Henderson's been brilliant at saving penalties, but I do think that some of the penalties were really, really poor.
No, Salah's was awful. I'm never, even when Salah's taking penalties, I'm never confident that he's going to score. I was watching it, and I said straight away, he's missing. I said Elliott's penalty was a pass back. I don't know what he was doing there, but
Elliott's the penalty was the luck of a man that's on his way
out. I'm not going to be here, so, but no, the penalties it's a lottery. It goes one way, goes the other, but. As I say, I'm not ranting and raving over the fact that we lost the Community Shield. Although what I did like about today was Frimpong's goal landed on the 20th minute and the 20th second, so that was a nice touch.
Bit of a freak goal. Interestingly,
Yeah.
Crystal Palace were well up on the XG battle. It's in the 90 minutes they had seemed to have the better opportunities according to XG. Now, whether people like that or not, Liverpool's 2 goals were actually very low in XG as well. Of course, we'll speak about the first goal at Ekatiki, and we'll come on to Frimpong, but a really, really good goal. This is kind of reminded me of Harry Kane's. Someone has finishes at Spurs. Obviously, you don't want to put pressure on Ekatiki, but he seemed to be the one that looked the freshest out of the new signings. He looked to be everywhere in the first 20-25 minutes, and he looked a threat, and he linked up play, some lovely touches, and of course his finish was a world class finish. And that's one way to silence anyone asking about 90 million euros.
He probably, to be fair to him, he probably should have had a second. I don't know if you remember the one Verts fuzzed on him and he sort of snapped at it. But no, look, he's going to be under pressure. He's going to be our main striker. Well, at the minute, he's going to be our main striker. Hopefully, if things go the way I want them to, a certain Swedish man will be on his way in. But no, he looks a real talent. Raw, of course, but he's a talent. But I thought he probably was the brightest of our attackers today. I thought Verts was excellent in the first half. You can see why a lot of teams wanted him. And Frimpong as well. He's just up and down. He's like a Duracell bunny. He's up and down. I was disappointed with Gakpo today. I thought he was very sluggish. He would be the one that would worry me out of the attack. But other than that, look, it's a pre-season friendly at the end of the day. As I say, I'm not going to rant and rave over losing it, but we do need to work. We are conceding a lot of easy chances at the minute, and that's something that is concerning.
Of course, when there's a lot of transfers and a lot of rival clubs are looking at Liverpool and going, "Oh my God, look at the players they're signing." I don't know if this is Liverpool, today, or Liverpool fans, or just Premier League fans in general. Maybe me being one of them. Do you think a lot of people disrespected Palace today and thinking Liverpool would just walk all over them? And we've seen Palace pull off big results under Glasner, and it kind of suits them to play the big teams because they can sit back and counter attack, and we know they've got bags of pace, and Glasner has them well organised, and Liverpool didn't get anything easy today.
No, I didn't expect that. It's never an easy game it's very rarely an easy game when you play Crystal Palace because, as you say, they're very good on the transition. They have, well, at the minute anyway, they haven't lost anyone of significance. Whether that changes in the next 10 days or so, we'll see. But like they have Sar, Mateta, your man, who's the right wing back, Munoz.
Good player, huh?
He was up and down too today. Mitchell was very good. I thought Adam Morton had a brilliant game. He was just controlling everything. But no, I can see why people thought we would walk over them. But you never disrespect. They're a good Premier League team. They can give anyone a game on their day.
Yeah. Salah, is he off the penalties now? I mean, that's 2 in pre-season. He's blazed over the bar. I mean, will he hit the first Premier League penalty if they get one, or do you think they will change that now?
Well, judging by the day, it doesn't matter who takes them. They're all a bit off it. But
I'd be surprised if they took him off him, unless he must have won the Premier League now first.
I've never been a fan of Salah on penalties because he just blasts them. He just runs up and I knew as soon as he had it was going over the bar. But no, he particularly had a bad game today. But I would rather him have a bad game today than on Friday. So no, I wouldn't take him off pens. But if it keeps going the way it's going, and I say we get one against Bournemouth and he blazes it, there is a conversation to be had.
Yeah, one area of concern today, looking at that from a Liverpool point of view, has got to be the defence. I mean, the Frimpong's come on. He's more of a wing back. He's more of an attacking fullback than he is a defender. Kerke's best attributes are going forward. Van Dijk's an year older. Kanate's in there. He's injury prone at times. Gomez is out injured. There's no real cover in there. And transition, as you mentioned today, Palace are very good. But I think the type of players Liverpool have signed, they're going to be more attacking this year than they were last year. And is that the concern that defensively they look a wee bit vulnerable?
Well, if you look at it today too, we were without Gravenberch, and he's a big help in that. McAllister was on the bench. Obviously, congratulations to Gravenberch, became a forward yesterday. So congratulations to him. But he's going to be out for the Bournemouth game. He'll be back and they play Newcastle, which that is going to be a feisty one, isn't it? But no, it's it is concerning, as you say. Van Dijk's an year older, but I don't think Van Dijk will drop off dramatically.
Are you reading into that today? Van Dijk, I know it's early in the season and it's not even started yet, pre-season, but he was at fault for both goals. I mean, it's unlike him to make two mistakes like that in a game, and I don't want to sound like he's finished, but all greats in every sport eventually time catches up. I mean, can Liverpool rely on Van Dijk to be at his brilliant best, or do they need to give him some support this season to make sure if he is maybe not at his best, there's somebody ready to step in, or maybe somebody ready to come on beside him if needs be?
Oh, we definitely need a centre half of some sort. We've been linked with a young boy out of Italy,
You would think
18-year-old
though
from
they need to
Parma.
sign somebody that's ready to start. Even if he isn't
Well,
starting, he's ready to start. Like I'm out Gay, he's been linked. That type of player.
I do think this week you'll see movement in the centre half position. I generally do think that. I know slots
because he's been conceding quite a lot of goals in pre-season, haven't he? As well, this isn't just today.
Yeah. But then, bar one season, we haven't really been renowned for being the best defensive team, even under Klopp. Like we had that one season where, but other than that, we haven't been the best defensively. But what's concerning me the most is we're conceding a lot of goals from set pieces, which is concerning. And if you're coming up against the likes of an Arsenal who are the masters at it, you need to find a way of
that was something that crept in at the back end of last year, because I remember when Solanke scored at Anfield, Liverpool were on a bad run of conceding from set pieces, and that was back in April. Yeah. So this is something that's continued on through pre-season.
Yeah, and the thing with Van Dijk is as well, it's a whole new back four for him as well, apart from the goalkeeper and Kanate. So he's probably getting the grips with playing with Kirk. Well, he's played with Frank Bourne before, to be fair, but he's probably getting the grips with playing with Kirk is. But I'm not overly concerned, to be honest. It's going to take time for us to fully click with all these new players. So I think fans just need to be patient for the first couple of weeks of the season. Even if we do have a loss or two, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, we'll move on from today and focus on Liverpool's transfer window. I know we've mentioned some of the players there, but and there's a lot of talk regarding, I know you were saying about a centre half, there's a lot of talk in the last few weeks about Isak. So we'll start with that and we'll move on to Newcastle, and we'll try and do this in some sort of order because it is a bit of lopsided way. There's no games they really talk about other than today. So just kind of like with Liverpool here, and we'll come on to Newcastle then, and we'll work our way through the rest of the teams. But I mean, this is a massive story that's been developing over the last 3 or 4 weeks. I've always kind of said up until about maybe 2 weeks ago that I thought Isak would be very difficult to get. In the last 2 weeks, it looked more likely that he would be going to Liverpool, although we're hearing reports now that Newcastle are not going to sell him. Nobody really knows what's going to happen, but there's no doubt that Newcastle's inability to get players in is affecting this, because I think Liverpool, if they're going to go to one, if they've offered something like 110, 115, I don't really see why they wouldn't go on again for 125, 130. And I think you're getting to the stage where even Newcastle might find it difficult to refuse. So I don't think from Liverpool end there's going to be too many hitches. I think it's going to, and we know Isak wants to go there, so it's more to do with Newcastle getting players in. But I mean, where are you at with this Isak? I mean, is this a player that you think is really, really necessary for Liverpool? If he didn't sign, would you be disappointed or, even heartbroken, or do you feel that, no, we need to get him done now or move on? Because, I mean, we're hearing tonight that Newcastle have told him he's not going to be leaving because they feel they need at least 2 strikers to cover Isak. And of course, a lot of strikers have moved. And it's becoming very, very difficult for Newcastle to get these players.
Aye, but that's coming from Luke Edwards, and he couldn't spell his name right, that boy, this summer it seems. But and then you've Eddie Howe saying we can't force him to stay. So look, as you say, nobody knows what's going to happen. Would I be disappointed if we didn't get him? Yes, because he's the best striker in the Premier League, bar maybe Haaland. You could argue Isak's better, whatever side of the argument you fall on, but it's not even him. We just need depth because we only have one striker. Obviously, Nunez is left, and obviously the tragedy what happened with Jota. So, and then who do we have then? We have Chiesa, who is going to leave. So we need a striker of some sort.
That was a waste of everyone's time.
Well, it was only 13 million.
That was going to be a waste of time for everyone.
It was only 13 million, so it wasn't really
There's a
take a
question
wrinkle
come
out
on
of
here,
it.
Owen, for you, actually. I'm intrigued where Owen thinks Isak will fit in. I can't see him spending 80 million for a bench warmer who looked really good today. I think he's referring to Ekatiki. So that is the thing, of course, that Liverpool fans will really enjoy having two strikers. But can you envisage these two playing together? I mean, you don't sign a player for Isak for the money you're chatting. They play him left wing. Ekatiki's always been a striker at Frankfurt. Do you feel that maybe unless Liverpool's chasing a goal towards the end of the game, but like from the start of a game, do you ever see a situation where these two both play in the same team?
I do. I generally think if we do get Isak, Ekatike will play off the left. I know he's predominantly a striker, but I think as you say, you can't bench a 90, 80, 90 million-point player, and you're not going to bench Isak, are you? So I think as a putting a square peg in a round hole, probably. But again, we need depth in that. We need depth on the left side because we only have Gakpo at the minute, and young Rio. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his second name because I'll butcher it. But I think if we do get Isak, which I think we will. I think it will get done, but I do think Agateke will then play off the left. But I see
What's your
where Danny's coming from.
what's your thoughts on Isak's approach to this transfer? Because Liverpool have only had one bid in there. That's I think everyone would agree in this market's probably not enough to get him. We're seeing players like Ekatiki moving for 80, 90 million. Sesko the same. Isak's a lot more proven. He was second top goal scorer last year behind Salah, the most goals by any striker, and he's been consistent. Barring injuries, of course, is maybe the only thing you could hold over his head in terms of his transfer fee. But even at that, he's still hitting high numbers. A lot of defenders dislike playing against him. I mean, he gave Van Dijk a tough time. I remember giving Van de Ven a tough time. And these are players that generally don't run into too many problems against players 1v1. So, I mean, should he have sat quietly? Obviously, free intermediate say he wants to move. But, I mean, to go about it the way he has, I mean, has he made it more difficult for himself? Because everybody knows now that Newcastle need strikers. And it's not easy for Newcastle to get this done now because they might be the wealthiest club in the world. But there's certain restrictions, as we know in football. It means you can only spend so much. And I mean, every striker that Newcastle go for now has got extra value. I mean, could he end up costing himself a move by his behaviour?
I don't think so, but I do think it's got messy, and I don't blame Liverpool for this. Liverpool haven't spoke publicly about we want Isak. Like Slot themselves said, we don't talk about players who aren't here. So has Isak scuppered the move? I don't think so, but apparently, going by reports, I don't know how true they are, but I was reading that Isak told them as far back as January that he wanted to leave, like for in the summer. So they've had time to prepare for it. But I don't know why nobody wants to join them. It's not just strikers. Trafford rejected them, and Buemo rejected them, Cunha rejected them, Sesko, like they will. I think they all get Wassa done. I think that's more down the line. But
Oh, but I
it's
mean, is Vasa and maybe an hour? I mean, they're going to have to take a punt on somebody now, that's maybe not well known or has a lot to. I mean, is that value for money for Newcastle? I mean, surely if they were getting a Sesko or an Ekatiki, who's a bit more known in Europe, have had Champions League experience. I'm hearing they're linked to a Porto striker now. That's
Samu, yeah.
He's not set the world on fire. He's a talent, but a lot to prove. Vasa's 29. He's as he an out and out striker. He can play there, but I mean he's only really been morphed into that role since Ivan Toney left. So I mean, I don't know if Newcastle feel that. Do you know what? Maybe we should just hold on to him. I mean, I did point out to you that the only thing in their favour is this World Cup year that and Sweden look nailed on, judging by the start they have and the group they're in. And they haven't played in a World Cup or Euros for quite some time. So I'm sure Isak will want to be part of that. I mean, if the window shuts and Newcastle don't get the players that they need or want, and they just keep Isak, I mean, surely there's reconcile there that can be done. I mean, Isak's just not going to sit there and rot for the next 12 months. And I mean, I don't know how Sweden could pick him if he hasn't kicked the ball for a year in the professional game. I mean, we've seen this before where or a player makes a statement and then it all gets sorted out after the window. And, if a player does well, the fans kind of welcome him back in. So, I mean, do you think could Newcastle play poker with a situation if they don't get the players they want? Are they better to gamble on making up with Isak over maybe spending 150 million unwisely and being a bit weaker in the team?
you can see it from both sides. You can see it from both sides. You can see it from if they keep Isak and get him back on side, it's like great. We have a great striker. But then if Isak stays, is he going to put 100% in it? Even if it is like he'll still score goals and he'll still. But if there's a one, but if there's say he has a slight knock, is he gonna carry on? Is he going to really push himself through the pain bar? And then on the other side, do Newcastle want to keep a disruptive player that's obviously upset the dressing room? So I can see it from both sides, but I can for me, maybe I'm probably biased because I'm a Liverpool fan, obviously. But for me, I can only see Isak being a Liverpool player come September 1st by
I mean,
somewhere
it's
else.
quite interesting because Keith Downey from Sky, who's reports on the northeast, says that Newcastle wanted a resolution by the Premier League kicking off. One way or the other, either he stays or he goes. Now, obviously, what's not helping Newcastle, as we says, is they're not able to get players on, so it's dragging this whole thing out. But it's not ideal for both clubs going into the season now with this transfer. I mean, as you said, they meet each other in the second game again, which adds more fuel to the fire. I mean, do you think it's unlikely now Liverpool sign him before Friday?
I don't. I think regardless if he's at Newcastle or Liverpool, I don't think he plays until after the international break because
Yeah, he hasn't been
he's
training,
a
has he? It's been a so-called injury.
he's had no preseason. He's been injured, so it's I can't see him playing either this side of the international break. So look, whatever happens, happens. But I'm not going to lie. I'll be buzzing if by September 1st he's holding up that famous red shirt.
I mean, as you say, it's not just problems with Isak. As you say, there's a lot of problems with players are looking to get on. They've missed out in big targets, like you say, Trafford and Buemo, Cunha, Sesko, Ekatiki was another one. I mean, do you think Newcastle are taken probably in shock by this whole window? I mean, this was a club that got in the Champions League last year, won a League Cup. They ended that trophy drought. You probably think they're going, what's going on here? Why have we become like allergic to top players? Because they've had no issue getting players before, like Bruno Guimaraes and Tonali, and there's been Anthony
Isak,
Gordon from there. Yeah, Isak. So I mean, and this is when they weren't in the Champions League. So I mean, what do you think's caused this? I mean, I know United are a big club and they get Sesko and Liverpool got Ekatiki, but I mean, it just seems they're missing out on everyone, and they seem to be favouring moves to Liverpool or Man United, and of course they're big clubs, but we've seen it last year. Newcastle were very, very convincing when they played Man United in the games. They were beating them easily. They're in a better state in terms of the manager. He's been there for years. The players all respond to him. The fans are all on side, and the owners are. Everyone's a really good, healthy connection there. Of course, at United, there's been a lot of unrest. Do you think players still feel that going to Man United is still a better move for them? I mean, it's hard to put your finger on it.
I think for Newcastle, I've said it all summer. I just think on board level they're a mess. They had Dan Ashworth. He went on Garden, lived to United. That didn't work out. They had Paul Mitchell. He left. I think Eddie Howe's brother's doing it at the minute, or or his nephew or someone's involved. I just think apparently what I've been reading into, apparently there's been a lot of broken promises to players. I think the project that they envisaged isn't what's coming to fruition. I think, and I hear a lot about PSR this, PSR that. It is true. You are hamstrung by the rules, but you look at Chelsea. There's ways to get around it.
But I mean, from the outside looking in, it doesn't look that bad in terms of they've 2 top 4 finishes in the last few years, League Cup winners. I mean, what did they expect to be winning the league at this stage? I mean, it was always going to take time, especially with these new rules. I mean, as you say, maybe it is to the board level, the different directors, there's different ideas about who should target in the market, but for whoever they target in the market, the issues seem to be that the players don't really want to go there. As you say, maybe they've spoken to players and they've been told that, there is a lot of broken promises here, and maybe it isn't the best career move. But I mean, that would be worrying from a Liverpool point of view. Is who can Newcastle attract now that's going to be worth selling Isak for?
I know you've seen them like with the likes of we spoke about Nicholas Jackson, Ollie Watkins, Jermaine Sammy. Like they're not names that. Don't get me wrong, Ollie Watkins is a proven Premier League goal scorer, but he's 30 now, 29, 30.
But the transfer window shuts in 3 weeks' time, and it's desperation time now at the moment.
Yeah, But as I said then, do you want a player who's obviously doesn't want to be there, he's dragging his feet on to get this move? So there's a lot more twists and turns to this before the one that wins.
Hmm.
Is it?
Let's move on to Man United. Of course, it was a really difficult season last year. Amram come on mid-season because he had no choice. If he wanted the job, he had to come on. It didn't really work out. There was under a lot of pressure at times because of the tactics, and he was refusing to change, and he was criticised by a lot of people, a lot of pundits, a lot of ex-United manager, or a lot of ex-United players who are now pundits. The fans weren't happy at times with, especially what happened in the final, that he didn't adapt when it was two unadaptable managers. You could say that one adapted to get a result, and Ange got the result for Spurs, and there was a lot of feeling of maybe this isn't going to work out again. We're going to have to go a different way. But United, it was kind of at the start of the summer. There was no money to spend, and the money's now appeared, and they've got Cunha, and they've got Mbeumo on, and they've got Sesko on. So, I mean, they're not they've spent big money in the past on players, but in reference to Mbeumo and Cunha, rarely have they went down the Premier League proven route.
Yeah.
And I was actually a big United fan I was speaking to. He's a very sensible fan. He says to me that if Mbeumo and Cunha both fail at United, then there really is something badly wrong, because a lot of players that they have punted on have come from different leagues. But these two have done it in the Premier League. Mbeumo for the last few years, Cunha for the last couple of years. And they go to United, and from what looked like a very weak attack last year, looks a lot different now. I looked at the final and thought, even though the Spurs attack wasn't great, that it was still a lot better than United's. I don't feel that way now. I think United have a better attack than Spurs, so they fixed that in terms of their abilities, their individual ability. It's can they make it work now? Of course, there's some question marks about the defence, but do you think United fans should be excited about this season? Because they've no European football, and we've seen this before. When teams don't have European football, they can tend to put together big league seasons and even sometimes outperform their expectations.
I know I'm not going to sit here and be biased like Cunha. Liverpool need it. Yep, I agree with that, Christian. I 100% agree with that. I'm not going to sit here as Liverpool fans. Yeah, Cunha and Mbeumo, they're quality signings. They're quality signings. And Sesko, but somewhere to Ekatike, it's a bit of an unknown. He has the potential. I hear a lot of people saying he has a bit of Zlatan Ibrahimovic about him, the height and the way he plays. But well, that translates to the Premier League is a different thing. But in terms of Cunha and Mbeumo, definitely going to improve them. But my one concern with United would be the midfield. Now they're trying to get Baleba out of Brighton. Now, I don't know where they're getting that money from. I generally don't know where they're getting that money from. But if they get
the Barcelona thing too, there's no money, and then of course money comes out of somewhere. But
if they get Baleba,
you can believe it. If they're at the table looking for him, they must have the money there, because why would they waste their time?
Yeah, if they get Baleba, then that's a very good signing, because he's a player who's very well thought of. But I don't think they'll get him this summer. And another questionable area is the goalkeeper. We've spoken about it now for the past 2 seasons. He's just not the level of a Man United keeper. But in terms of the attacking, they're definitely going to score more goals and create more chances, because you still have the likes of Bruno one behind them, and he's always going to create and score goals and assists. So look, don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here, I'm not worried about United threatening for the title, but they could be up there for Europa League, Champions League qualification without a doubt.
Christian must have missed the Liverpool chat at the start, because he's not happy with today's game. Believes that Salah should have been substituted. Christian, you can go back to the start of the show. We spoke at length there about Liverpool for about 20 minutes there. So do join us the next time we're speaking about Liverpool as well. But and no, you're bang on. they're going to be much more of a threat going forward. I do think with these 6 English teams in the Champions League, it's never been done before. You're going to see a lot of English. They're going to drop points in the Premier League, because they're going to have difficult games in Europe, and United won't have that problem. So it might be that the one season out of Europe might be a bit of a blessing for them, and Amram can get his team coached into the way he wants them to play. And because there was issues last year, he didn't really understand, I think, sometimes the setup that he was, because they were playing a game every 3 days or so. especially because they got all the way to the final in the Europa League. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think Amram's under huge pressure now because the money has been spent, and if it doesn't work, I think next summer he'd be lucky to be in the job. I mean, do you think he's got to finish in the top four? He's got to get into the Champions League for next season. Do you think that'll be the remit?
Probably, but for me, he has to finish top six minimum top six minimum top six. He has to get European football minimum. Because if we're sitting here talking in Christmas time and United are back where they were last season, then that's serious problems.
Another team that has signed a big name striker is Arsenal. Of course, I mean they've been desperate for a striker, haven't they, for the last couple of seasons? They've kind of invested in all areas of the squad, but Arteta did say this was the summer that Arsenal would sign a striker, and Gyökeres was that striker. As you say, a bit like Sesko and Ekitike, a bit they prove in terms of the Premier League. I mean, he made his name in the Championship, done really well in the Portuguese League, but as you well know, in Nunes, Portuguese League sometimes isn't a good barometer for the Premier League.
Nunes,
of course, the
Nunes
teams are a lot more.
Nunes actually scored in his debut today for Al.
Yes, well, there you go. But it's a different level, and Gyökeres has got to get used to that level. But he does have experience on his side. He's a bit older, and he might be able to handle the pressure a wee bit more. But one thing that I noticed some of the games Arsenal in pre-season was that they have to, a bit like what Man City have with Haaland, they have to adapt to playing with a striker because Arsenal have been so used to playing without a striker that you feel that Gyökeres might have a slow start because of that. That Arsenal were so used to playing without a real number 9 that it could be difficult for Gyökeres to start. They adapt to that Arsenal team, or do they have to adapt to him? How do you see it?
But both, I would say there's a bit of a give and take. They have to adapt to him, he has to adapt to them. But from what I've watched of him, which is very minimal, I will say, he's a penalty box striker. He has like a
Van Nistelrooy about him, isn't he?
Van Nistelrooy. Most of his goals come within the 6-yard box. So, like, if he can get Arsenal, like I see Arsenal fans saying, "Oh, he's going to get 30, 40 goals this season." It's like, right, calm down. Like if he can even get 15, 20 goals in all competition, that would be good enough because you have the likes of Saka, and they're going to get a left winger surely. And we'll speak about. I do think they'll get Eze. So
I think that's a problem position for Arsenal at the moment, that left side, because Martinelli's not kicked on the way Arsenal have in recent seasons.
He's sort of been left behind, hasn't he?
I think so, and I think it's making life difficult for Saka at times because teams are doubling up on him because all the threats coming down that side, and Saka's been overplayed by Arteta. He seems to be picking up injuries. He went off in the pre-season game against Spurs, and I think teams are realizing if you kick him, he goes down very easily, and I don't know. There's definitely something in there that with Saka that it won't take much for him to get injured. I don't think, and I don't know whether teams will target him and maybe go on hard on him, and you could see Saka coming off in games. And if that is the case, then they're going to need a lot more from that left side. I mean, they've been linked, as you say, with Eze, who was decent today. Rodrigo's been an hour name. But again, Real Madrid kind of wants stupid money for a player they don't see as part of the plans, but they've got it before. We've seen that before, and they've got money for Ozil and Di Maria when they were sidelined. Of course, Ozil went to Arsenal, Di Maria to Man United. And Ozil maybe did work out for a while, but it ended sourly. Di Maria didn't work out at United. And a lot of the reasons why these players don't tend to work out is they don't really want to leave Real Madrid. And Rodrigo is another one who wants to stay, but is being told he's up for sale for the right price. And that price seems to be around 90 million euros. So, again, Arsenal, I think it was Sammy Mockball says that Arsenal are on that PSR breadline where they can't overspend. Yep. So it may be that Eze is a better alternative, but as Eze, what they need is not really an electric left winger. He's more of a tuck-on left side number 10 type of player.
Watching him today, like he plays very centrally. It's very, very rarely he drops out to the left, and he's and I forgot to. Eze's not that young. I keep thinking he's
27, I think, is he?
No, so he's don't get me wrong. He's not for a footballer. He's going to be grand for all 5.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. If you're signing him for here now.
Yeah. So I think it'll be a good signing, but I think if he plays as a left winger, as you say, he doesn't have that burst of pace that can get away from fullbacks. So It'll be an interesting
Odegaard's
one who they
normal
go
too, isn't
for.
he? Odegaard seems to be struggling a bit, and I think
Yeah,
that's a bit of a
he had
worry.
a
But
bad season. Odegaard had a bad season last year. Again, he's another one that seems to pick up niggly injuries now and again.
well, and believe it or not, Danny thinks United will surprise a few. However, I heard this before. I think he's been saying it for the last couple of years. We've looked solid in pre-season. He's also saying that Van Dijk was very clumsy today. One of the best centre backs in the Premier League history, but he dives in too much and has had a few shockers in the last year. As we spoke about Van Dijk and Liverpool at the start, and we did speak about United there, so we'll keep motoring on
Well,
because we'll keep.
to be fair, United did surprise a few last year, only in the opposite side.
The wrong way. And the wrong way.
Uh,
But I mean, do you envisage Arsenal being better now they have a Gyökeres on there? Will that make them a bit more of a threat? I mean, there's a lot of games last year they drew, especially at home. They couldn't really break teams down more than once. There's a lot of 0-0s or 1-1s on there.
They are going to improve, but we'll get on there with the predictions. I don't want to give too much
Is it
away.
make or break for Arteta now this year? I mean, do you think he has to win one of the big two?
He has to win a Champions League or don't get wrong, if he wins a League Cup or an FA Cup, it's great. But Arsenal now are at the point where they need to win a Premier League or a European Cup, and if they don't, then I think there has to be a change because he can't say he has been backed.
Well, I'll be totally honest with you. I think they've missed the boat. Now they could still go on and win it this year, but I think they're going to have to win it. It's going to be harder to win it this year than it would have been the last couple of years because I think they slept in last summer when Liverpool didn't spend a penny. Man City were on that cycle of a 4-year run where they declined and Rodri got injured. I mean, I think that was the year to step in.
Did you hear about Rodri? Rodri's out until mid-September as well.
Yeah, so maybe with that ACL injury as well, it's going to. We've seen some players don't recover from these type of injuries, so that'll be interesting. But let's speak about Man City because they were very busy pre-Club World Cup. We haven't really seen anything since. Of course, they were looking impressive in that Club World Cup with Reinders and Rodri and players like that. That midfield was reshaped. Cherokee's come on, but they haven't done anything in the top end of the pitch. In terms of wingers or striker, and I think. One of the things I think about Man City is that's where they're weaker. The likes the days when they had Mahrez and Sterling at his best and Sané at his best, and Jesus even played out there when he was when he was cut. I don't know if the players they have now are as good as that. Savinho, Doku, Grealish was being outcasted. Bernardo Silva plays out there sometimes, but I think he's more of a central player. Foden's not been at himself the last year or so. So I mean. Man City have a bit they proved, do you think?
We're sitting here saying Man City have a bit they proven they've been the most dominant.
After last season, sorry.
No, last season they will want to come. They will want to come back and win the league. Spoilers, I don't think they will. But they'll be closer this season than they were last. And I don't think anyone's going to walk away with the league this year. I think it's going to be. This year I think it's going to go down to the last couple of games.
The last few seasons it's kind of been Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal have kind of been the ones that everyone's spoken about. But I do think this year it's slightly different. People are starting to mention Chelsea, that there may be a fourth team in there. They've won the Club World Cup and they've dispatched PSG, who've been the best team in Europe over the last year. And they beat them quite easily. Now, maybe PSG were running out of steam, and Chelsea had them at the perfect time, but it was a really good performance. Now, they've had a bit of a funny pre-season, of course, because they're one of the teams that had a break. We'll come on to talk about PSG and Spurs, but I was starting to think maybe that PSG could be rusty, but Chelsea were pretty much on form today, despite that break. So, hard to read into how Chelsea will start the season, but they've made some really good acquisitions. I'm a massive fan of João Pedro. I know people, maybe you were one of them that weren't overly keen on him, but I thought that maybe Spurs should have looked at him. He's had a really good start there at Chelsea in the Club World Cup in pre-season. He's an arrogant type of striker and he's a handful. Attitude at times questionable, but they've also got Delap, who looks a player that can definitely improve and he's on the up. So they've seemed to have sorted that striker position out. Of course, a lot of talk about Jackson moving on, but do you think Chelsea will be a much more of a threat this year? Now they've got the Club World Cup, they won the Conference League, of course, had a good league campaign. Do you think we're moving out of that banter area of where Chelsea were for about 3 years?
It's looking like it. And no, Joe Pedro, I do think he is he is a quality player. He is a quality player. And I think Chelsea will suit him well because they're a horrible club as well. No, but no, to say Chelsea are going to be a threat next year. Look, it's not just Joe Pedro. They have Pedro Neto, Palmer. They have that young boy Esteval who they're very excited by. And then they're going to sign, which I think is very strange. They're going to sign Garnacho, which I don't get because they've signed Bono Gittins, and who else are they looking for?
No, this is one thing I wanted to chat about because a lot of these players they're signing, they're selling a year later. Like we've seen Dewsbury Hall move out the door for roughly the same fee they signed him. João Felix was moved out to, I think, even more money. I think he might be the most expensive footballer ever in terms of fees. There's been that many big money moves for him. I think they sold a centre half there that they signed maybe a year ago as well. A young centre half. So I mean, and they still continue to spend money. So have they found a loophole in this system where they keep just rotating players for similar fees? Because it doesn't seem to under any pressure with PSR.
No, it is strange, but you've seen it too where they sell their women's team, or that was Aston Villa, was it?
Yeah. They done something. They sold part of Stamford Bridge even or the train. I can't. They've done something.
They've sold that. They've sold hotels, so they're finding ways out of it. And you know what? Fair play to them. They've been bantered for years, but it looks like they're finally getting it right. But some of their signings do baffle me at times, though. Like as I say, Garnacho, like where's he playing?
There's talk of Garnacho and Xavi Simons coming in, both wingers. Where do they fit in? But I mean, United want 50 million for Garnacho. I mean, the Chelsea believe they can get 50 million from him, turn him into a half decent player, and then be selling for 60 next year. I mean, this is what it seems to be about for Chelsea. Making a quick buck. And still being successful on the pitch. But, I mean, it remains to be seen how this process continues. Danny's saying he thinks Man City are finished. Surprised Pep has stayed. And the Club World Cup reflected their season. He's also saying hard to say who would have a better chance of hitting the barn door than Ezra Jackson. Jackson was a bit more prolific last year. I mean, that is one player that's been linked away from Chelsea, as we says. Newcastle, Spurs, possibly interested, but
for some reason.
Yeah, Chelsea wants somewhere in the region of 80 million. I think you need your head checked if you signed him for that money.
It's most of they buy him for like 40.
I'm
surprised
that was good value for money, won't they?
I'm surprised we got 50 for Nunes, and they're looking for 80.
I think the Saudi team come on. It worked out all right, but
if someone sanctions 80 million for Jackson, then they need their credit card taken off them.
Look, let's come on to talk about the Super Cup. We mentioned PSG there, and of course we haven't mentioned Spurs yet to take part in this Super Cup against PSG. And before we come on to talk about the game, of course we'll talk about Spurs and their summer because when they signed Kudus and it looked like Gibbs White was going to follow. That's where they signed Kudus, and the next day they agreed a deal for Gibbs White. He was scheduled for a medical. Some even say he was at the training ground, and then he was told to leave, and that Forest would not be sanctioning the deal. Due to they believe that the Spurs found out about a release clause unmethodically, put it that way, and that they went through back channels. They find out about this release clause.
If that was the case, no transfer would happen.
But of course, this was a release clause that no one seemed to know about.
Yeah.
When Spurs was in there for him, it only became public knowledge after that there was a release clause activated that no one knew about. So what's probably happened is the agent has probably told Spurs, and Spurs have stupidly nailed it to the nearest point. From what I understand, it wasn't 60 million on the button. It was 60 million point something. And Spurs matched it completely. We've seen a similar situation years ago with Suarez and Arsenal.
45 million plus a pound.
Yeah, something like that. And I don't know what the exact number was, but this is where Forest, and it's particularly Mangalis, got suspicious. And once he has his foot in something, he wasn't going to let it off. And
did you hear
Spurs Gibbs White, and that was a big blow.
Did you hear the Palace fans? Are they singing about?
Yeah. Obviously Palace aren't happy with him because of his behaviour there, and of course we'll find out tomorrow about Palace's appeal, whether it's
How do you see that
successful
going?
or
I don't
unsuccessful.
know. I don't
Palace
know.
seem to think there's a good chance it'll get overturned, but we'll
Yeah.
see tomorrow. But Owen Gibbs White could also good sign him, but Gibbs White was one that Spurs fans really wanted, and especially now with Madison's injury, it's really come home. They hit them hard, and they're going into the Super Cup really underprepared and understrength.
It's been a weird summer. I expected Spurs with a new manager, and when they signed Kudos, I was like, you know what? He's a player I want. You'll know this. He's a player I wanted at Liverpool years ago before he moved to West Ham. So it is for Spurs to get him. It's a good signing. And then when they signed Gibbs White, another good signing. But then it doesn't happen, and then they seem to just yes, they've signed Polina, but Polina's not. He's not a creative player. He's more of a.
No, he's a number 6 and he's on loan as well. So I mean, what's happened since? I mean, it's been a few weeks now since the Gibbs White thing was called off, and Spurs haven't really done anything significant in terms of no closer to getting a player in that position. Madison's now got injured. Kulusevski's not back until after the first international break at the earliest. So there's a real lack of creativity in there, and with Son leaving, you could argue that Spurs are going into the season weaker than they finished last season because Udogie's injured, Solanke's injured, this is Kulusevski's injured, Madison's injured, and they've only really brought Kudos and Polina and unknown. So, I mean, Spurs fans says Daniel Levy told them that this was the reason Irons was sacked was the Spurs want to compete on all four fronts this season under Thomas Frank, and at the minute, it's difficult to see how that's even half possible because they're so short in so many areas.
I don't know why Spurs didn't one for Eze, to be honest, because did he not have a box for his family at Spurs every time he's played Palace? Or
For whatever we've been linked with Eze for a number of years, but for whatever reason, that don't seem they want to go through with that. So, and the fact
it's,
they were going for Gibbs White tells me they don't value Eze as highly as maybe what's reported in the media. They feel that there are options out there because I
I
mean,
said
Eze's going for around the same price as Gibbs White was. So
apparently he's have held talks with Harvey Elliott, but he's doesn't pursue it
I
then.
think 50 million was a bit too much for what Spurs felt they could do a deal for. And I think that's a common denominator with Spurs is they never really want to come up these big fees, and no doubt they're struggling to get players off the books. They haven't really generated a lot of funds,
Is
excluding the Harry
Richarlison
Kane
still there?
transfer, and they can't seem to shift Tom Miller. That's another problem. But it's been a difficult summer for Spurs. Maybe not as difficult as Newcastle, but it's a lot of unhappy Spurs fans. Obviously, I'm going into the Super Cup tomorrow for the game on Wednesday night. And, speaking to a lot of Spurs fans, they're kind of going out here a wee bit deflated when they should be, going out excited in the fact that we won this Europa League in May, and this is a bit of a celebration out here. And, another chance of maybe winning a trophy, even though it's going to be difficult against PSG. But hearing reports, it could even be as much as a protest before the Burnley game on Saturday against the ownership again. And I think it's really upsetting Spurs fans is that they've been promised twice this summer you were going to be able to compete. And at the minute, a lot of fans are saying, well, I can't really see us getting out of mid-table.
Yeah, well, you look at the signings. Our teams have made Cunha and Buemo, Wirtz, Guacares, Reinders. Like, look at even
It's all big.
Sunderland. Even
Sunderland have
Sunderland.
spent, at the minute, Spurs don't seem to be able to do anything. And what that's down to remains to be seen. But with 3 weeks to go in the transfer window, there's a lot of concerned
Spurs,
Spurs fans. I mean,
Spurs don't have any ballers by PSR or anything from what I hear.
can spend up to over 200 million before they'd even be close to it.
Uh, I heard
I mean,
that too.
is Thomas Frank going to be let down like the rest of them have? I know you were quite critical of Ange, but you could argue that the squad he had last year wasn't really fit to compete in 4 competitions. Mourinho
And
and
this squad is
Conte,
arguably
although the football
this
was
squad is
turgid.
arguably weaker as well.
Yeah, but although the football was turgid under Mourinho and Conte, they made similar points. Pochettino
Yeah.
says that he didn't have enough players. I mean, it's a reoccurring theme of these managers not being happy with what they've been given. And from what I understand, Thomas Frank's been told he needs to finish in the top 4 or 5
And and especially
on a
for Thomas Frank
shoestring budget.
because this will be his first season competing Europe League, Europe League, Europe League. So he has a big job in his hands. So
I mean, has he been
it's a
brought
tough
on
one.
because Spurs have looked at his record at Brentford of improving players and working with a tight budget. But this is a different kettle of fish. There's no pressure on at Brentford. I mean, you're playing against the top teams, in Champions League. And, Spurs, when they play the majority of teams, maybe outside of the top 3 or 4 teams, are expected, especially at home, they won. Where Brentford, that's not real an expectation. So, this is a different level. And he's been told by the looks of things that he's going to have to work with what he has. And I mean, that's not going to go down well with the fans. And a lot of fans are frustrated with the ownership, and I feel that whilst Thomas Frank could come under pressure if results aren't good, I think there's a bigger issue here, and it's not looking like the Spurs fans is going to be happy with whoever the manager is, because the manager seems to not have the backing of the board or doesn't get enough backing.
It's really like you've known me now for years, like, and you've known me, they say, oh, FSG this, FSG that, but I don't know what happened to them this summer. Did they something just clicked and they decided?
Yeah, but you look at it this summer. Slot's been backed, Amram's been backed, Arteta's been backed for a number of years.
Yeah,
Maresca's been backed. Emery at Villa's been backed. Eddie Howe's been backed in recent season. Spurs haven't really backed anyone.
It's so strange. I don't know why leaving.
What do you think's realistic for Spurs this season? If they weren't to sign any more players in this window, what kind of position are they looking at?
Anywhere between 10th and 5th. They're in that bracket.
A lot of Spurs fans think it could be a struggle to even make them places. Maybe that's based on last season.
What did you say? There's 3 weeks left to go, so a lot can change.
Yeah. And I think a lot of Spurs fans is upset that Son's left and there's been no replacement. Of course, it was probably the right time to move Son on, but it's now looking like Matisse Tell could be his replacement too. I have to say, for all the hype around this fella in Germany, he's not looked anywhere near a player here in England. I know he's young, but I think Spurs again wanted somebody more proven to be his replacement. But again, because he was available for 30 million, Spurs have bought him.
I know, there's no reason Spurs couldn't have went out and got, I don't know who's a left winger that someone they tried to get in Wembley, didn't they? I think.
Well, they got Kudos, didn't they? But I mean, they play on the other side.
So it is. I don't know why Levy doesn't decide to back managers, but it's only hurting him in the long run.
Yeah, because he's going to have to sack another one if this doesn't go well. Now, of course, around the doom and gloom of Spurs' window, there's a game on Wednesday night against PSG, and look, I know a lot of fans are a bit deflated, but I think they'll get up for this game on Wednesday because it is a trophy. It's a European game against arguably the best team in the world in PSG. PSG, they'll be hoping, Spurs fans will be hoping there's a bit of rustiness there, because I think if PSG find anywhere near their top level, it could be a long night for Spurs.
They looked really rusty in the Club World Cup, didn't they? They looked a tired team.
But I mean, you look at the players that they have compared to what Spurs have, it's a bit of a mismatch. So I mean, do Spurs have any hope of getting this trophy on Wednesday night? I mean, even if PSG are off the races, the Spurs have enough there at the minute with the injuries they have.
Not for me.
Even talk of Ben Davis having to play because of that stock.
Is he still there?
He's still there. I mean, so.
No, I think PSG will have too much for you, to be honest. I think, as you say, like, they have Kvaratskhelia, Dembele, they have Fatinha, Neves. Like, it's just
Neves is actually suspended.
Why is he? Oh, because he got sent off in the Club World Cup then. But even their fullbacks, like Mendes and Hakimi, like, it's just much over the pitch. But I'm glad you're going out there for the experience, but I don't think you'll be there at the end of it.
And let's move on then. Your fancy MP, I have to agree. I don't see any way Spurs won this game.
I hope for you they do.
I think if it was mid-season here and PSG were in rip-roaring form, it could have been messy. But I think more likely a 2-0 win or something like that is more realistic. Yeah. But I think Spurs fans all agreed they'll take penalties now. They try and get a result. But look, let's move on to our predictions for the season ahead. I'm not going to do the 1-20 because I think it's impossible to predict that. It's impossible. Yeah. So we'll start with the Premier League. We'll go with winner, top 4/5 if FUF gets you into the Champions League.
Yeah.
Bottom three. And then we'll go through all the cups: FA Cup, League Cup, Champions League, Europa League, Conference League, and the World Cup at the end of the season will be the last one. So,
Yeah.
winners, Owen, who are you going for?
I mean, it's not going to surprise you, is it? I'm going to say, look, we're favourites. I think it's going to be tighter than last year, but I think this is the year where we retain our Premier League title.
This is where I don't like doing these things before the window shut because a lot can happen in the
Yeah.
last few weeks. But
Yeah.
I mean, is that something that needs fixed? I mean, should Liverpool and Newcastle be going on the next weekend with this Isak thing hanging over
The
both
window,
teams? I mean,
I've always said
surely
that the window should close before the season starts.
one of the issues I think with this is that the Spanish league don't start to the week after, and obviously
Yeah.
teams then will be vulnerable. But
Yeah.
surely they should organise a whole European deadline.
Yeah.
Before the first league starts, that all
When
this
you
stuff
have
is done.
the Saudi Arabian window doesn't close the end of September. The Turkish window doesn't close October. So it's all.
Yeah, maybe they should align these things. I don't know, but I don't think in general. I don't think a Turkish team's going to come on for any of the big hitters. I don't really think. I think it's more the Spanish league being the issue. Very rarely, maybe Harry Kane being the only one recently, but can't remember the last Italian team that bought the Premier League's best player. Or German was the one with Harry Kane, and normally they go to Barcelona or Real Madrid.
Yeah.
But so you're going Liverpool.
Yep.
I am going to say Liverpool based on the fact I think they'll sign a centre half before the transfer window shut. If Liverpool don't sign a centre half, I think there could be problems down the line there because I think it's a big risk to go through the season with just Van Dijk and Kanate. And Gomez is injured now, but injury prone. I also don't think he's at the level of those other two. I think they need someone like a Mark Gahey to come on. Whereas if he's playing, you're not going, oh God, it's Gomez. It's I think Gahey's a great player they have in the squad. Danny may have a point with Van Dijk. Is it going to be a season too far? Only time will tell. A great player, but will he continue to be a great player? That'll be one of the. I think that'll be one of the main reasons why they want it or don't want it. If it's Van Dijk at his best, they'll probably want it. If he's anyway off it, that may be the Liverpool conceding too many goals. So I do think at the minute Liverpool are the favourites. But I think if they were to go and sign a top centre half, I think that would make them strong favourites. More so than signing Isak.
If we end this window, we get Gahey and Isak, then I'm like, okay, I'm happy. But I'm sticking with Liverpool at the minute as my winners.
Yeah. Second place. Who are you going for?
Chelsea.
Oh, Chelsea. Big hike up the league. Where they finished fourth. But quite a lot of points behind the top couple of teams last year. Where's the confidence behind Chelsea?
Just their attacking, their attack. Like they've such a good attack. No, they have lost Colwell, the ACL, so they might need another centre half. But I just think they have a bit more than the rest of the teams. I don't know, something's giving me a sneaky feeling about Chelsea, so I'm going to go Chelsea. Last year I had them 11th. This year I have them second. So changes from year to year with Chelsea, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to go Man City. Just purely on the fact that I don't see them being as poor as they were last year at times. I think the signings they brought on, especially Reinders, I think is going to be a really good player for them.
Yeah, he was a good.
And I think as well, this is a pure guess, but I think they'll do a wee bit of business between now and the end of the window. I think, as you said, Chelsea might do, but I think Arsenal are pretty much set now. Maybe Eze, but I don't see them doing too much more. But I think City could definitely do a bit of business before the window's over. So I'm going to say Man City second.
Yep.
Third one.
I'm going to go Man City.
Man City.
Same as you, and then it's tight between all them teams.
Third, I'm going to go Arsenal. I think with Arsenal, it's come to a stage where it's either going to have to be make or break this year. I think they're either going to be. I think they'll win the league, or they'll struggle. I don't think they'll be an order. I don't think it'll be must be a point or so. I think if they want it, they'll want it quite not convincingly, but I think they want it, they'll want it out of sight. And I think if they don't, they could struggle. I think the Jacques thing's going to give them a lot more goals, but I just worry. I don't know. I think I think teams may have worked out Arsenal a bit. They haven't
Yeah,
changed much over the last couple of years. Their teams are struggling. They're struggling to break a lot of teams down. Now,
I've seen a
Yorker
lot of
definitely
them.
help, but I think the midfield at
Yeah,
times and the wingers is unbalanced. And I could be wrong, but I think Arsenal, not that they'll
I
struggle
think
completely, but I don't know if they'll be at
I do
the
think
level they had the year before.
Zubimendi is a good signing for them.
Yeah.
Uh, he obviously doesn't like the Spanish mountains anymore, but well, well, but no, I agree. Well, we'll see. I'm going fourth. I'm putting Arsenal in fourth. Again, it's one of them. They could win the league or they could really struggle. Like between these four teams, there could be a big gap or very little. So it's tough. It's tough between the four of them. But my fourth place, I'm going to go Arsenal.
Fourth place for me, I'm going to go Man United, believe it or not. I think the fact they're not in Europe is going to be a massive, massive help. I think
Yep.
these English teams are going to have some really difficult games, and we know the way the Champions League is scheduled now. You're going to meet
Yeah.
at least 2 or 3 really, really good sides. And as it says with the Premier League now as well, even seen it with Palace today. Your Brightons, your Villas, your Newcastles. Very, very. There's always difficult games at the weekend. I mean, if you're going away to Brentford, maybe not so much Brentford now because there's a lot of uncertainty, but away to Fulham's not an easy game. Away to Palace is not an easy game. Away to Forest is an easy game. So I think there's going to be a lot of difficult games ahead after these Champions League, and I just think that the Chelsea are, as you say, a lot of attacking areas. Not convinced about the goalkeepers or their defense. Midfield again is hit and miss. They've got more up front this year. But I don't know. I think an experience as well. There's a lot of young players in there. I think United might improve quite significantly with these players up front, and I think Amram's a good manager in my opinion. I think he's a good tactician, and maybe it doesn't look that way at the minute, but I think United will have finally got the manager they need. And I think as well they'll be busy in the next couple of weeks. I think if they can get Garnacho off the books for 50 million, they're going to reinvest that into the squad. So I'm guessing a wee bit here because there's still 3 weeks to go in the window, but United are my surprise package, I would say, for 4th spot.
Well, I'm not going to be too far behind you. I'm going to put United 5th.
So just purely based on the no European football.
And I do like some of their signings as much as it pains me to say it. And I do think, as you say, we know European football and the other teams having tricky games that it could benefit them. But United's one of them teams where it could go one way or the other. So but I'm putting them 5th, and if I could see Champions League, they'll be happy with that, I would say.
Yeah, I have the same top 5 as you, just different order. I'm going to put Chelsea in 5th, just like you says there, but the lack of experience, extra games. They played Conference League last year and they played a completely different side. That won't be the case this year. So I think that's going to be a big shock for them playing that many games and the quality opposition. So that's where I'm going with that. Right, bottom 3. Just your 3 that you think are going down and why they're going down.
Leeds, Burnley, Brentford.
Leeds, Burnley, Brentford. So you've got who have you got staying up then out of the promoted teams? Sunderland.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm guessing you're based in Sunderland on they've done a lot of business.
I'm basing that on that, but they are. I don't think Burnley have done enough, and Burnley have lost their keeper, their defense. I know they've kept your man Steve or whatever you call him.
Steve, and then they've also signed Kyle Walker, haven't
they? But he's not. He's not
what the flush.
He's not what he used to be. But and it's also kind of hope that the 3 promoted teams don't go down again, because I'm getting sick of that. I want someone to stay up. But my Brentford one is the one I'm most confident about because they've had a wretched summer. They've lost their captain. They've lost their manager. They've lost their best player. They've lost their goalkeeper.
Could be about to lose their second best player.
Yeah, they could lose Wissa, and their manager.
That's an experience.
This is his first ever managerial post. I wonder. I know they've brought in a great goalkeeper in Kelleher, and they've brought in Jordan Henderson, which questionable for me. Yes, he's a leader, but is he at that level anymore? I've heard people say he's only in there to be a second manager at this point. But no, for me, I
Do you
think
think he
Brent
could be the first manager sacked, Keith Andrews?
Hum or Daniel Fark, one of them two.
Uh,
Because
um,
but I
I
Brentford for me.
I think Brentford's in everyone's bottom three. Not to give mine away, but I think a
You
lot of
had
people are thinking the same about Brentford. It's going to be a tough
you
season
had
for
them
them.
last year, didn't
Might have been a season too early. Um,
you?
but they'll definitely be going on again this year. And this is not
Hmm.
against Brentford. I actually like Brentford, but
That's what
I do think it's run its course now. And the fact that they've lost all these big hitters, manager, all these players that they're losing, and they're difficult to replace when you're Brentford. And the Norgard one for me made no sense at all, unless he really wanted to go. But they let him go for what, 10 million?
Yep.
Waste of time.
Who are you going to replace? Who are you going to get? Uh,
A strange one. But look, um, you also have Leeds in there.
Leeds and Burnley.
Leeds, and you said Burnley didn't do enough. So Leeds, what do you think about Leeds?
I don't like their manager. I don't think he's a good. No, he could get
Well, he
sacked and make a change.
struggled in the Premier League, hasn't he, in recent
Yep.
times?
And you seen it even when they got promoted, they were looking to sack him. And I I think they need a striker. Their striking options are terrible. Patrick Bamford's been told to take a hike. They're the only player of note that I think is decent is your man Nanto, but is he going to be able to keep them up? And
Maybe you're talking me out of. I actually had Leeds down up, but you're kind of talking me into putting them on there. But I'll give you mine.
right,
But
no work.
I've got Burnley as being bottom. I've got Brentford being second bottom. And like for basically the same reasons you had there, I think Keith Andrews is a massive gamble in the Premier League, especially when you've lost this many players. It needs somebody with experience, to be honest. And I don't know it. And Brentford are a smart model, but it doesn't seem very smart what they've done this summer. Maybe they're going to be busy in the next few weeks, but I think it's a very big risk that they've took here, and I don't necessarily think they're set to come straight back up because I
No,
don't really think they've got the players anymore. So
they're
Brentford's
trying
going
to
to be
get
second bottom.
they're trying to get Omari Hutchinson from Ipswich, but that doesn't really inspire me.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sunderland. I think they're going to be fine. They've signed some good players. Like Xhaka's a brilliant signing. I think seems
Django's
great.
a very good signing as well. I like him.
Yeah. But I'm gonna say I've got Leeds just above the bottom three. I'm gonna say Wolves.
Oh,
I think Cunha is a massive loss. He
I know, but
carried them at times last year,
they
and I
played
think
well. They played well without him at points last year as well.
he did. But I think he'd be a big loss. There's also talk of Newcastle looking at the big striker, Strand Larson, who was also a good source for him. And again, just like Wolves, I think. Or sorry, just like we've said, we outright Brentford there, and there was teams like Southampton. How long can you get away with selling your best player every year?
Yep.
I think eventually it catches up with you. So I'm going to say, I know it's a bit of a, and I also think Leeds might do some business in the next few weeks before the window shuts. So I'm going
They
to,
sent the goalkeeper doesn't they, Leeds, because they need one.
I'm going to take a punt on that. So I'm going to go Burnley bottom, Brentford second bottom, and Wolves just ahead of Leeds. I think Wolves will go down and Leeds will just survive.
Oh, I would like to see that. Nothing to do with them two clubs. It would just be nice to see the three promoted teams not all go straight back down again.
Yeah, let's stick with domestic football. FA Cup winners, who are they going to be?
You know what? I'm going to go a rogue shout here. I'm going to say Brighton. Don't know.
What's just after what happened to Palace last year?
Just something magical. Just be good to see a team like Brighton won the FA Cup.
Nah, I think it's going to be a big hitter season. I think the top four will clean up, or top five. I think that'll be the way it goes. Because I think that you seen last year with Spurs, Newcastle, and Palace how much it means they won trophies over finishing top four. So I think a lot of these teams will be. Chelsea got a taste for it last year as well. They enjoyed winning that Conference League. Even though people criticised it, they had a pretty big celebration after that. Trophies, as we know, aren't to be sneezed at. So I am going to say that one in the FA Cup is going to be Man City. They'll go one better than they did last year.
Have they been in the past 4 years or something?
Yeah, they've been thereabouts. League Cup winners.
I don't know. It's just based on past experience, but I'm going to say Liverpool because we always get to the final, it seems. So I'm going to say Liverpool.
League Cup winners for me. I'm going for Aston Villa.
Oh,
I think Villa could end up having a decent first half of the season because I think they're not going to be too overexerted in Europe. I think they might find it more difficult in the second half of the season because they might play better teams. But I'm going to say Villa might have a good run on that, so I'll go Villa.
nice one.
Champions League winners.
I'm going to say PSG again. I think they're just a magical team to watch. They're hard to beat. So I'm going to say I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it's a PSG Liverpool final and PSG nick it.
I'm not going to put PSG in there because I think with the amount of football they've played, it might catch up on them in the second half of next season. Maybe they might slow start and build again, but a lot of games they played last year, and you've seen them towards the Club World Cup. The players going down injured and stuff, so they might have more difficulty with injuries this year. And I think for as good as they are, I don't think if anything happens to that front three, they can replace them. I mean, I think they gel so well together to be difficult. I'm actually going to say Bayern Munich for the Champions League. I think.
Actually, speaking of PSG, I've seen a thing where if Liverpool don't get Isak, we're looking at Barcola, which is interesting.
No, he can't really get in the team, can he? Because he's his second favourite, behind
the Champions League for you.
So I'm going to say Bayern Munich. I think Diaz is a great signing for Bayern Munich.
Yes.
I think he'll link up well with Kane. And I watched Bayern Munich the other day and against Spurs, and they're very, very good. I'm not basing it on that, but I think Kompany is a good coach, and I think the football they're playing is quite attractive.
Bayern's defense worries me, but
what's that? No,
Bayern defense.
But I think this year, I don't really see any competition in Germany for them this year. I think they're going to win that league at an absolute canter, so they may be able to focus on that second half of the season. Whereas I think the English teams might be more difficult, and PSG might be struggling with injuries because they're out of the game. So I'm going to say Bayern Munich based on that.
I think Real Madrid's going to have a hard year this year. I think it's going to be a hard adaptation period for Alonso.
Europa League winners.
I'm going to go Aston Villa.
You're going to be Aston Villa?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm usually prepared for these things. I can't even think of teams is in the Europa League. I don't think Villa won it.
Nearly.
But I'm trying to think.
I think. Well, Palace or Forest are on it.
No, I don't think they'll be an English winner this year.
No, I'm going with Villa.
Go and call me out some of the teams in Europa League.
I'll look now. Europa League 25, 26. It's mad that we don't. Europa League 25. 25, 26 teams. Let's see. No, we have Bologna, Celta Vigo, Lille, Lyon, Forest, Porto, Real Betis, Roma, and Stuttgart. That's the teams in the league phase. And then for playoff rounds, you have the next.
Villa would be one of the favourites, then, wouldn't it? For that. No, I'm going to go with Lyon.
Lyon.
Although they're not in a great state, that's the only thing.
Europa League is always hard to get because it's a tough competition. Conference League, I'm not even going to try because I don't.
I think the one English teams will win that. Whatever English team ends up, and that'll be one of the favourites they won it. So I'm going to say at the minute. I actually think Palace are going to get their appeal overturned, so I'm going to say Forest could win that.
Nah, Forest are a team that everybody hits at the minute.
Well, you look at that Europe. There's been two English teams have won that since it started: Chelsea and West Ham. So I think the English team, whatever English team, because I think the way it works is, I think the seventh for best team in England's a lot better than the seventh best everywhere else. I think that's why, you know what I mean. So there wouldn't be as many sides in that as competitive. So I think I actually think it could be a blessing for Palace if they could have a good go on that too.
Yep, and it depends if they keep Zayn Gahey as well. That's big for them.
Right, the big one, the end of the season, the World Cup. Who's going to win the World Cup?
Ireland. No.
They might win the national embarrassment, but they won't win the World Cup now.
I'm never going to say England, even if my heart depends on it. So I'm
I don't
gonna go.
think I know one of
No, I'm gonna go Spain.
them. I think Spain are an obvious contender. Um, I think Germany are on the up. They have a lot of good young players coming through.
Yeah, Musiala,
I
Verts,
think they'll be up there. Argentina, of course, are strong. Um, there was another team I was thinking about as well. France. France have a lot of good.
Right.
I'm going to go Spain. I think are favorite, but I'm going to go with France.
France. Brazil could be interesting under Carlo Ancelotti as well.
I just don't know where Brazil.
No,
Even their qualifying campaign's not looking that great. So,
it's gonna be a mad summer next year with about 17 games on a day.
all right. Some quick fire predictions before we go here. Where do you think? Where's the ones they watch player wise the next few weeks of movement?
For transfers.
Yeah, Isak,
Has
Eze, obviously from
Isak,
Jackson.
Eze, Gehi, Jackson, Harvey Elliott. He's one for me to watch as well to see where he ends up. So those will be the main ones.
Right, give me some confidence. The Spurs going to do anything in the next 3 weeks?
Uh
I mean, they surely they can't finish the
well,
window with what they have.
no, they have to do something. Whether it's a panic buy, like a Giovanni Lo Celso type of thing, but back in the day, or something. No, they will do something. But
Do you know what? It actually scares me what we could end up with. This could be embarrassed in this Champions League, to be honest, if we don't buy players. But we have to get through
it's
this
mad
PSG game.
because all the quality players are already gone, basically.
Do you know what I think the biggest shame about Spurs at the moment is all that optimism and the
It's
euphoria
gone,
of May is gone. I think the fans are just so fed up with this ownership.
Yep.
I mean, they've been promised the Galgorn, and they've got the Premier Inn so far this summer.
No
I mean,
disrespect to the Premier.
I know, and our hotels are available, but I'm serious. That is, they got kudos. They got a good bed, but the actual hotel itself's crap.
It's
Um,
it's scary because, as
no,
you say, he's won the Europa League, and oh god, he's won the Europa League, and United have had a better summer than you, which is
yeah. I mean, if he disappeared off the face of the earth for the last 4 months,
uh,
and he didn't see the result, but looked at the two teams' transfer business, knew that both teams were in the final, he'd say, "Oh, United must have won that."
yep. But funny,
Here we are.
funny is a football game, as they say.
If Spurs are anything serious, they'll go and put 80 million down for Morgan Rogers now. Get him on number 10, sort of.
He would be the player that you would want, wouldn't it? But
Yeah.
will our Villa sanction it so let in the window is a different story.
Or if he want to come. But
Alright.
Owen, it's been great having you on for the first podcast of the season. I am back from Italy about. Well, I'll not be back the Thursday night late, but Friday evening we'll do the Premier League weekend predictions before the Liverpool Bournemouth game. So I'd say I'll get on for 6 p.m. on Friday. So anyone that's watching, we'll obviously talk about if there's any more transfer news. We'll talk about obviously the Super Cup, how that went for Spurs. I'll give you some feedback on how it went in Italy for me.
Whose ground was it on?
Udinese's.
Uh,
And we'll look ahead to the Premier League predictions of this weekend's obviously Liverpool, Bournemouth's on there. United Arsenal is going to be the big one on the weekend. I think Villa's playing Newcastle. Artistic game. What's that?
Villa Newcastle. I was going to say that's going to be a good game.
That'll be a good game. I think City are away at Wolves, Chelsea are home to Palace, Spurs are home to Burnley, Sunderland I think are home to West Ham, Leeds Everton's in Monday Night Football.
The second game week, Liverpool Newcastle, that's going to be popcorn. That.
Yeah, it's a Monday night, isn't it?
It's a Monday night.
Yeah. Well, I want to say thanks for coming on for the first podcast of the season. Of course, we'll be back on Friday to do the predictions for the first weekend of the season. So do tune in for that. I'm off to get my bag packed. I'm going to Italy in the morning to watch Spurs won the European Super Cup.
I love the optimism.
That's it. And obviously keep an eye on my socials, of course, because it did meet quite a lot of famous people the last time I was at a European final, of course. So I'm hoping to do the same again. And if you're new around here, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more content. And we'll be back on Friday as we build the Premier League kickoff. And I think I'll say this on behalf of everyone. It's great to have the football back.
Oh, 100%. It'll be great to have. I can't wait for the window to close and stop talking transfers and just get down to the down to the
I'm
down to
actually in
the.
Spain for the deadline day, so yeah,
You might see Isak on a plane heading to Liverpool.
that's it. Oh, thanks very much. I'll see you on Friday, sir.
See you then.